Hey guys, it's me again, Orcs Flare What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. So, Deku and Hanayama are 16, Baki is actually 13. Sorry about, I keep on changing his age, but it's, I'm trying to go along with the Baki timeline here, so sorry about that, but Baki is, 13 in this. I thought he was 12 or 11 one of those times, so my mistake. Anyways. Where I last left off, let's see, checking again. Deku went on his date with Bakugo. They had fun, they went out to eat, ate a lot. He pretty much dropped her somewhere close to home. He then went on to go, after a few days, started getting into fights with some yakuza, beat them down pretty easily. Then eventually it sort of escalated to where an entire group of them jumped him. There were quite a few of them, like several dozen of them, as he through the videos showed him taking down multiple by dozens by himself. That attracted the attention of Hanayama Karu, the head of the Hanayama group, I believe, who's also, like I said in the beginning, 16. And what he last said is that he's going to seek out this Izuku Midoriya. As he stands up and goes off. He hasn't been confronted by Baki yet, I'll let that be known. Because Baki goes and fights him. Baki pretty much draws with Hanayama, when I remember. Then Yujiro comes out of nowhere, breaks Hanayama's legs, and then pretty much just beats the shit out of Hanayama. Hanayama's like, Yujiro! Being big and strong, and tries to use his, what he calls the Devil's Pinch, I believe, where he pretty much, with his immense grip strength, which is the strongest in the world by other people's standard, that ain't Yujiro, he pretty much takes all his strength, not all of it, but uses his full strength with his palms, squeezes down between say you had your forearms, he would grab between the end of your forearm where it goes to your wrist and between the elbow or something, if your arm is big enough for that, and squeezes down, eventually making the blood and such stay in that area until it pops open. Yeah, he is very brutal. And Yujiro knows about where Deku is as well. And I didn't say this before, but Baki also knows who this street fighter is, hearing that he took down 50 guys by himself and nobody knew who he was before this. So this has also drawn an attention, you could say. But as Deku's going through his day, he even arranged I believe it was 10 months. He's almost, yeah. Sorry, I'll draw this back. Deku's been around. He was around for a year. I believe there's 8 months left in the year. I'll leave it there. I'll say summer. I'm unsure about how that works, but anyways, yeah, I believe Japanese people get 1 week off for school and such is typical for holidays and such. I believe it's 1 week, but I'm not entirely sure. So just looked it up. It's they get 40 days for summer from July 20th to August 31st. I think that's when it's said. Sorry if I'm wrong, I'm memorizing it. And then it's from winter to spring, that's 10 days. So around 50 days. Deku's doing summer right now, I believe is what I said, for him to train with Bakugo Katsuki at the end of the thing. So we go there. Deku's training Bakugo his way, but probably dumbed down quite a bit, because I already gave you an example of how Deku trains, and he trains hard. For most people, at least. He doesn't do anything. He does serious stuff, more serious stuff, actual strength training and such. keeping up and all that, building up endurance and all that, yeah. But for Bakugo, he's dumbed it down quite a bit to, like, ensure that she doesn't overexert herself and whatnot. So as he begins training her, it takes a while. Like, within that 20-day period of summer break, her parents actually suggest that Deku and such do a family dinner. As Deku, not a family dinner, but just like go out, so that way they can like get to know Deku better than the like few on times that they've gone to meet up. They said Deku could bring his parents if they want, if he wants to and such. So as Deku's like, yeah, her parents have invited us along for dinner. As I forget his name. Mitsaru, there we go. Sorry about that. Mitsaru has a better paying job, like from that, I believe it's graphic design, yes. He actually, is much, like, has gone higher up on that totem pole, you could say, when it comes to that stuff. Being paid very handsomely, but he actually prefers just to have a simple life and to not spoil Katsuki, so, you know, it's like that. So, with that being said, Bakugo and them, like, are already up. And, well, Deku eventually comes along with his mother, wearing a nice-looking shirt, jeans, and shoes. As they meet at a very decent restaurant, you would say. As Inko and them, as with Inko being like in front of Deku, as she is tall. I said she was 6'11". I'll change that. She's like 6'8", maybe 6'6". Sorry about that. Like Deku was 6'11". I just looks weird with a 6'11" Inko. I'm just thinking, is she an Amazon? No, but she's like 6'8", more 6'6", one of those two. And then Deku's still 6'11", but is kind of growing, but nobody really notices it since he's already so massive. As with that being said, they all sit down at the table and start talking. Deku's uncomfortable to say the least, since he has massive legs, so he's just like sort of, it looks like he's doing a sumo. If he was doing squats, it looked like he'd be doing sumo squats. As the people at the store or at the restaurant had to get a more resilient chair for those bigger clients who were much bigger than the average run-of-the-mill client. As they order their food and start eating, that's when tragedy strikes. Not tragedy, but you know. As eventually a group of what they perceive to be yakuza member, and yes, they are in that part of town. It's like a high-ranking place where some high-ranking officials, yakuza members, and whatnot come to hang out and to eat a nice dinner. As Hanayama had his people being on the lookout for one such man who fits Deku's exact description, and from the description that the people who challenged him got a look at him, he pretty much like had that sorted out by all his gang members or yakuza members. As when it heard, oh yeah, that he's right here, or a guy matching his description, he pretty much set off immediately. As he burst open through the doors, as they are massive, he comes walking over. He sits at a table at first, and then starts ordering. As he's like, "What would you like, sir?" As Hanayama doesn't look like a high school student, but he is. As with that being said, he orders a drink, and then is brought the alcohol. As he starts drinking an entire bottle of Kentucky bourbon, I believe, but I'm not entirely sure. It's either Kentucky bourbon, whiskey, or something else, but I'm not entirely sure. As then he also starts smoking. It's like, "Is that all for you, Mr. Hanayama?" He's like, As he gives a nod, he's like, oh. As Deku can notice that there's some yakuza members. He hasn't been around them much, but he can tell that they're high-ranking. There's a few of them posted up around the entire room. As he can see, like, every time he looks, like, even though his back is turned, well, he's at a booth, sort of. It's like a booth facing to the left, or to the right, to the left. As he has to sit at, like, the end of the table. As Inko and all of them are having pleasant conversation, you could say, Bakugo looks to Deku to see how he's doing this. She's like, Deku, what's wrong? As everyone heard that, he's like, I'm pretty sure you saw that, you remember that you seeing that video, Bakugo? The one with the Yakuza members, right? As Metsunaru was like, what? He's like, Deku says, long story, he says, I'm pretty sure we just walked into a place that hosts them. As Mitsunaru was like, I've been coming here for years, why would they just show up now? He's like, I'm figuring that it's that big guy over there. But, hey, this could just be a coincidence. Let's just keep our heads down and eat. As they bring out the dishes, as in they bring out Deku's multiple dishes. Just around 3 to not, like, seem like a pig to Bakugo's parents. He's just like, I'll eat later. As he starts eating down, like chowing down. As he orders a couple of steaks. And a large platter of fish. As he says, like, as a person asks, how many receipts? Or whatever? Deku says 2. He's like, Mitsuru's like, oh, it's okay, Deku. It's like, no. I'll pay for all of ours. But I'll keep mine separate from theirs, so numbers don't get too complicated. It's like, very well, sir. As he pays up cash up front, as Inko's like, wait, where did you get that money from? He's like, yeah, job. Couldn't sit around just sitting on my ass, tell you the truth. I've trained like only so much I can do before I grow bored of training and hanging out with Bakugo and such. As then he pays and they all start getting up to leave. As the Yakuza members are like, could you please stay for a while, Mr. Midoriya? There's someone who would like to speak with you. As he says, alright. Then as he speaks to his like mother and Bakugo and all of them, it's like, if you wouldn't mind, they have no part in this. Would you please leave them be? He's like, of course, sir. Mr. Karu just wishes to speak with you. As he's like, very well. As Deku goes to sit at the bar. As in Hanayama offers him a drink, he's like, no thank you. So, may I ask your name? His name is Hanayama Karu. Japan's greatest street fighter. He's like, He's like, I'm guessing those are your boys I took on a while ago? As Hanayama just says, yes. As he puts down his cigarette and he's like, They went and came to fight me, not the other way around. I hope you understand that. He's like, I do. As Deku says, so, we doing this now? Or as Hanayama stands up as Deku's still seated, as Deku starts activating his quirks, his first quirk, and then Hanayama drops his glasses. As Hanayama, with his strength is a passive one, like it's always on. It's like that. As I don't think I gave him an exact numbering. He's weaker than All Might, to be sure. But when it comes to Deku and him, I said Deku with only using his first quirk is about half of what All Might is present. So that's like 3.35% of Prime All Might at Deku's fullest. Still quite a lot considering it's Prime All Might. Well, not Prime All Might, not 35% of Prime All Might. It's more along the lines of less than, I think less than, maybe around 20, maybe between 20 and 30% of Prime All Might. But it's half of All Might now. Yeah, it's confusing, alright? Sorry, it's very confusing for me. No, it is 35% of Prime All Might. So, sorry about that. But Hanayama is about more to 45 or even 50% of Prime All Might. So, this is still a danger. As Hanayama takes his glasses and drops them, as Deku's like... As he goes to stand up, Hanayama then quickly flashes his fist, punching Deku, sending him across the room and into several tables. Deku says... As he stands up, he says... just sorry about that. Some guy said it was nasty. But it's for the thing, as he spits. It's an act. It's a thing that I do to give you guys more of a thing. I know it's weird. Weird, not weird. Weird. As he says, Deku says, As he spits, says, that's a good punch. Then he starts walking to Hanayama, as then he punches him again. Deku's being strength is amplified and all that, yada yada yada. As he punches Hanayama, Hanayama feels it, but he's still standing. As Deku says, you're tough. You're solid. You feel like a brick, not even a brick wall. Brick walls fall easily. You feel like it's something made out of steel. As then he cracks his knuckles, he says, alright, as he takes off he says, I would like to keep this from getting destroyed if you don't mind. As he takes off his nice shirt, jeans can be replaced easily. As he rushes forward, pretty much picking up, kicking Hanayama in the knee, or on the leg, sorry, forcing him to take a knee, as then he grabs his face, and then sort of takes it, and brings it up quickly, and headbutts him. Hanayama feels that, as then he grabs him by the head, still swings him around, and throws him across the room as well, launching him into the bar. As Hanayama's like, As he stands up with the alcohol and glass tearing up his shirt, he pretty much does the whole ripping it off. And I should have a picture up right here about what Hanayama looks like without his shirt on. As he says, as Deku's like, As he cracks his neck, he's like, let's continue this. As they go at it, punching, smashing, throwing, and then eventually Hanayama uses the Devil's Pinch on Deku's arm, as Deku then, feeling what's probably going to happen, activates Yujiro's quirk at the same time, releasing that aura, as then he clenches his arm and tenses it up, just barely matching Hanayama's little thing right there. As he's able to counteract the Devil's Pinch, as Hanayama's like, what? As Deku then grabs his face and smashes him straight down through the counter. He then picks him up and punches him right in the ribs, as Hanayama's like, actually making a sound, as then Deku then goes behind him and sort of dislocates his elbow and such, as Hanayama grabs his arm. At that point, Deku does a roundhouse kick, coming forward with an uppercut, smashing Hanayama in the face, sending him backwards again, as this fight has gone on for around 15 minutes, other than I describing it. Deku then moves forward, pretty much grabs Hanayama by the neck and pulls him up, saying, are we done here? As Deku's bleeding, and Deku can feel that he has broken several bones. Well, not several. Well, yeah, several bones have somewhat of a breakage in them. It's not like snapping or anything. As Hanayama's just as he brings back his left arm and smashes him right in the face. Again, as Deku's like, it appears not. He then grabs Hanayama by the neck and forces him through the front doors as he goes flying through a wall. As Deku's walking forward, like several people, like the entire street is cleared off aside from like yakuza members, as not Yujiro, Hanayama came flying out of the wall. Everyone's just like, what the? As he gets back up, Deku walks down, taking his boot and just straight up kicking Hanayama in the face. As then Hanayama is literally knocked out. Deku says, if that's all, as he goes to go grab his shirt, it's like a yakuza member's there holding it. Here you go, sir. He's like, thank you. As he puts it back on. Tell Hanayama this was fun. If he wants to go again, tell him I'll be there. As he walks away with Hanayama defeated on the ground. As he walks home, somewhat not limping, but he is hurt. He has bruises, cuts, and a few broken bones, like I said. So he walks home, eventually making it back. Inko's like, well, Inko was staying at Bakugo's place and such. As then they called him. He's like, hello. She's like, are you okay, Deku? He's like, I'm fine. Nothing much. As he rubs his nose. But ask the Bakugo family, do they have a kit? As they're like, do you have a medical kit? He's like, yeah. Like, good. I'm gonna need lots of towels. As they're like, towels? As he pretty much comes home, as he kept his shirt off. I'll scratch what I said. He just took it back with him. As he arrived at the house, he just sat down after Inko and such just got all the glass out of his back and such. As he's like, As Inko just sort of started helping Deku. As Baku's like, so did you win? He's like, I wouldn't be standing here if I didn't. Is he dead? No, he was just wanting to see if he was stronger than me. I can respect him for it. He didn't just jump out of an alley. He came straight to my face, at least. And he didn't involve you guys. So that's a win-win, for me at least. Then he wipes his nose. Hanayama's back in action within a week, so don't worry about that. As then he returns to a nightclub. Certain club. And just hangs out there running the place. As then, through the grapevine, it's heard that Hanayama Karu challenged this newcomer and was smashed down. Deku then just starts, getting back in order. Yujiro hears about the whole defeating Hanayama Karu within a very small period of time. He actually gives a smile, so he's weak, at least he's stronger than Hanayama. As he flashes his grin. As then he thinks about Baki. I wonder how Baki would fare against him. He says, well, he is older. It might actually be stronger than me when I was his age. But I highly doubt. He questions that, does Deku have control over his quirk? As unlike Endeavor, he doesn't see it as his quirk. He sees it as the family's quirk. As before him, there was Yujiro, his father, who was massive. The Hanayama family is insane. And it seems sometimes they get smaller and smaller. But then there's ones that are bigger than smaller again. Yujiro compared to Baki and such, Baki is essentially a shrimp compared to Yujiro size-wise. Yujiro compared to his father is a shrimp size-wise. Yujiro, which is Yujiro's father, is massive beyond hell. Compared to Yujiro, Yujiro looks like he just works out very well. Yujiro looks like a bodybuilder, or a powerlifter and such. Stuff like that. But I digress. As he stops thinking about this, and he is debating to himself whether to go see how Deku's doing, guaranteeing that he knows, like, where he most likely knows where Deku is by now. And one day, Baki's like hears about like how Hanayama Karu, a famous Street Fighter, was defeated, as he was thinking about challenging Hanayama, maybe. Quite possibly, maybe, sorta, why? As that's left at that. Deku and such is just living his life. Not thinking about challenging him, but in the future would like to fight him. And he just hears Hanayama's been defeated. Oh, great. As... Sorry if this timeline is kind of screwed up. But I'll say, like, maybe around this point, maybe a bit further on, Baki was doing his, like, family. Like, his mother, Emi Akizawa or something other, got worldwide scientists and health experts and trainers and all that to train Baki so that way he may prove a challenge to Yujiro, sort of thing, you know? But as we all know, that really doesn't work out in the end. But anyways, he's training either like this still, but is getting very irritated, or he's just outright gone to the mountains to fight the ape Yasha, as he just hears the news from whatever the guy's name is, I forget. Yeah, there's a lot of characters in Baki, so sorry about that. As Deku returns to school, as nobody recorded the Hanayama fight. That was a fight indoors, and the last, blow was Deku kicking Hanayama in the face. As, like I said, Hanayama recovered. Anyways, skipping forward a few weeks, Deku is still training Bakugo day in, day out. As then, when he's not training with her, he's doing his, super serious training and such. As he's trying to find a way to tap into his family, the Hanayama quirk more and more. He's trying to figure out how it activates. He can tap into it by himself just by willing it to activate. And he's trying to he's trying to get higher and higher with it. But he's also trying to maintain, how strong he's gotta be to wield more of it, you know? So, as he's pushing forward, he's strengthened his body a lot. May not be full power yet, but he's getting there. Well, not getting there. He's got a long ways to go within the years. As he keeps pushing and pushing, as he feels like he's hit a dead end when it comes to this. Like that he needs to find another way to gain strength. But he doesn't know how. As he's looking down at his hands one day, as they don't even look bloodied or any slight of harm from just punching trees, he moves on to rocks and starts punching a flat surface. Using Yujiro's quirk. As he's punching with it, he doesn't feel pain still. He's still punching it. As then he eventually just disables it. As he punches it, he then starts feeling the weight behind the rock. As then he's constantly switching between which quirk he's using. And it's working. He feels after moving from trees to rocks, he may start actually feeling different as he starts trying to push around giant boulders that weigh tons upon tons. As then he also punches essentially a solid rock wall, where it would be like a sheer drop if you went on the other side. As he's punching it and punching it, trying not to break it, but routine and such. As he practices kicking, punching, and yada yada yada. Eventually realizing that he can't keep doing this. He's got to find another way. As he thinks to himself, his father used to bring people for him to fight. And his strength and techniques and all were great. But he's something else. Something greater. As he goes to talk, sort of goes around to either high schools or beyond and starts trying to find people to train against, to fight harder fights. Trying to see if maybe this could help him even get stronger. Because that's, from what I can tell, is that's how Baki does, is that he fights stronger, like he fights opponents that not realistically, but that are stronger than him, and fights them to try and like overcome them in the way of gaining strength. Deku thinks of a similar thing, is that's what his father was doing to him. He was just sending stronger people at Deku until Deku eventually triumphed. Yeah. As then there's like more people like in the underground fighting arenas that they just hear that this guy just came out of nowhere and started fighting their strongest people. Deku winning a lot of these, and that's over the course of like summer as well, as he dominates the underground fighting arenas and such. Doesn't go to like the Rai Tai tournaments, but that isn't like for another several years. Or a few years. As Deku finishes with that, eventually summer ends, and they gotta go back to school. Deku and them do have a good relationship, and Bakugo's family are good. As eventually one day, Deku's invited along to their family, as Bakugo's family have gotten an invitation from one of Metsuru's former clients, as he was like hired to do stuff for him. As they like an offer of gratitude, they like invite him along, plus his family, and they get one guest. As they invited Deku, and they said that he needs formal wear. As Deku says he isn't one for this. Like, he says that he's never really been good with these kind of crowds and such. He's never really wanted it. As Bakugo seems like, come on, it'll be fun. He's like, I don't even have a tux. Like, it's okay. It's in a week. And it's on a free day. Where you can just do whatever. As he's like, alright, fine. He's like, I'll try to get a tux. As he goes to a place to get his size fitting. As then he stands there in front of the person, he's like, how may I help you, sir? He says, I need a tux. He's like, oh, personally made, sir? He's like, yes, it's for a special occasion. He's like, wedding, sir? He's like, no. Party, you could say. He's like, well then, please step over here. As, it's like, we got another one like you around here. Needs giant suits. As then walks in Hanayama. He's like, Mr. Hanayama, it's a pleasure to have your business here again. If you wouldn't mind waiting, I have another one around your size waiting. As Deku says, hello, Hanayama. As Hanayama just gives him a nod and just sits down waiting. As Deku gets his fitting sense, he's like, it shall be done within a week, sir. He's like, thank you. As then he hands him some money. He's like, sizing is free. The tux is gonna cost you quite a bit, sir. As Hanayama says, put it on him. It's on me, is what he says. As it's like, are you sure, sir? It's like, never mind. As he gets to work on it. As a week passes, and Deku does very little in that time. Like, he doesn't constantly train. He does take a break every once in a while. Everybody does need a one. As when he takes that break, he takes Baki on a date, saying he's gotten his tux ready. As he gets there and eventually gets the tux, as when Bakugo and all of them are waiting for him, it's like, we gotta go, we'll meet him there. As he was given the place to meet at, as Bakugo's wearing a nice, lovely red dress, is what I just thought. I just thought of a random thing. I was thinking about others, maybe a black and orange, or a red dress is what I was thinking. Choose whichever ones you want. As when Deku shows up, he shows up in a nice, sharp suit. Green, with a what's the word? With a nice white tie. As he stands there with his hair all nice put back, combed, and he has actually put it in a ponytail. Well, yeah, ponytail. As he has, like I said, it's weird. He just looks weird. As he has it put up like that, he's like Mr. Bakugo and Mrs. Bakugo and hello Katsuki. She's like, hey Deku. As she looks up at him, he's like, you look lovely tonight. She's like, thanks, and you look sharp. As they pretty much just walk to the place. Like, the people who invited them were, I'm just gonna spill it, the Yakuza. As when Metsaru meets them, it's like, hello, and this is my daughter. As he introduces, Deku isn't like in there yet. He's sitting outside, like preparing himself. Sort of like, he is kind of nervous. Like I said, he has Yujiro swag, but that doesn't help with the young, shy teenager. As when eventually, it's like, this is my daughter, Katsuki Bakugo. Katsuki, say hello. Hello, Mr. Yakuza, as she gives a bow. And it's like, this is my daughter, Momo Yakuza. She's like, greetings. As in, like, do you have an extra guest? He's like, he was just waiting outside. Deku, or Miss Izuku, please come in. As he has to walk in, as he has to duck under the doors, as he's taller than anyone there, as Mr. Yakuza's looking up at him. Momo's looking at him, and Momo's mom are all looking at Deku, as he's like, it's a pleasure to meet you. As he gives a bow, it's like, pleasure's all mine, Mr. Midoriya. It's like, Momo, give your greetings. As he's like, hello, he's like, good greetings. So he gives a bow after, like, taking a moment to look at her, and then gives the bow, as Bakugo stands close to him and just sort of kicks him in the foot. He's like, why? She's like, As he pretty much, like, they will lock arms and start their walk. As it's like, unfortunately, where we are going we need to be flown there. And with your guest height, we may have to travel in 2 different ones. Deku's like, you got 2 helicopters? It's like, yes. Every now and then one breaks down, you see. He's like, breaks down. As they're outside looking at the helicopters, he's like, don't worry, Mr. Midoriya. They have been recently remodeled and fixed, you could say. Like, right, how about you two, the 3 young ones take that one, and us adults take that one. There are some business matters to discuss. As Metsuno says, of course. Behave yourself, Katsuki. Deku, please watch her. And he's like, I will, Mr. Bakugo. As they walk in, as Deku helps each of them into the helicopters, they're like, thank you, as they ride over. As Deku's like on the far corner, as the guy's like, could the big guy, as he's like, hey, get in the middle. It's like, you're throwing us off balance. Seriously, you weigh so much. He's like, sorry. As he like has to scoot over, as he just like sits there with his long legs, looking like this place is too small for him. Anyways, that's a big joke. As they like sort of start talking, as Bakugo says, so Deku, when are we gonna start training again for, UA? He's like, when there's time, but right now let's focus on school. It's like, as Momo's like, you guys are going to UA? Or attempting to? It's like, yes, we are. As she starts talking about her interest in UA as well, as they all get to start talking, as she's like, oh, have you guys actually thought about hero costumes yet? As Deku says, I have. As it's like, really? As Bakugo looks at him too. It's like, as he like, he's like, I do think I have it on my phone here. As he has a very big phone for necessity. It's like, that's a big phone. It's an iPad. As they're like, oh. He shows them the design he's come up with, which is the picture I have been showing you. It's like, I'm was looking over materials and such, and this seems good enough for me. The boots are durable, and it's very durable and lightweight. And the gas mask and such helps me with whatever my body can't deal with what on its own. It's like, wait, have you ever been poisoned before? I've been shot with tear gas and such, and it doesn't do much. But other stuff that's been specifically engineered or made to make a bigger impact tends to work. It's like, well, you are quite something, Mr. Midoriya. It's like, thank you, Miss Yajirozu. And Bakio, as then she shows her thing. As it's pretty much just a gender bend of Bakugo's thing. Like, I think I should have a picture up right now. Around 36, I believe is when it should be on. As then Momo talks about her thing, as Deku and Bako are actually curious, what is your quirk? She explains creation quirk and all that, and he's like, really? As she like sort of shows him as she sort of she just like makes those little Russian nesting dolls that she makes when they're going against Aizawa. He's like, this is very interesting. Mind if I keep this? She's like, sure. He's like, cool. So he slips it into his tuxedo pocket. As they all finish talking, as they arrive at the helipad, as they land, as Mr. Yajirozu and them made it first, Bakugo and them sort of, as they're welcomed by Emi Akizawa. I'm pretty sure you guys could have seen this where it's coming since, Emi pretty much owns a major corporation. Technically, when Emi died, doesn't that make it Baki's corporation as well? Damn. Baki should be loaded, Jesus. That's unless it's like being handled right now by people until Baki comes up. Oh, Jesus. He should be making bank. Damn. As Deku steps out, as for a second, Emi has to do a double take, as then she sees Yujiro for a split second, but then realizes it's not him. So then he helps Bakugo and them out of the car, as then she instructs Baki, to go, as she pretty much had someone drag him back here. Essentially is what she had him do. So that way he may at least be present for something. Because she didn't, everyone was curious about, oh, where's Baki, as eventually she just had to drag him back. This is my own personal canon. I'm sorry for that, for having to drag Baki out of the mountains from fighting a dangerous ape. Yes, that's one of the things he does. It's one of the things he does. No. It's one of the things he does to try and gain strength, as I believe the monkey knows fighting styles and such. Anyways, as he looks up at Deku, seeing a sort of another flash of where, he looks like Yujiro, as he's like, Deku says, good evening, or, bowing his head. As they all walk in, as Yujiro and them, no, not Yujiro, Deku follows, sort of having Bakugo, pretty much link arm, or as close as to linking arms as they can get, since Bakugo is small, still, technically. Not up there with Mitsuki, when it comes to height, at least. As Deku arrives sharp on scene, with, arriving like a boss. As he sticks out like a sore thumb in the beginning, but then eventually everyone just starts going back to what they were doing. As they all talk about UA, as Deku says, yeah, it's pretty interesting and everything. Hopefully nothing really bad happened. As he stops mid-sentence, and from across the room, he sees him. He sees the one, the only, Yujiro Hanma. Sorry about that. I like Yujiro as a character. I just like him a lot. He may be a prick sometimes and may act all superior, but he's earned that superiority card. Like, seriously, he can crush everyone in the world. Seriously, I like Yujiro a lot. He's like one of my favorite antagonists in anime. Like, seriously, best antagonist, would recommend watching. As Deku stands there in awe, as Yujiro locks eyes with him from across the room, as Yujiro just flashes that smile, as Deku's like, as Baku's like, "Are you okay, Deku?" He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Just thought I saw someone I recognized for a second." He's like, "Would you excuse me?" As he says he's gotta use the bathroom. As he walks over to one of the servants, "Where's the bathroom?" It's like, "Oh, it's this way, mister. Sorry if things can get a bit complicated here." He's like, "It's no problem." As Baki even noticed his dad, and when he noticed Deku was walking out of the room, he's like, "What the?" He doesn't know who Deku is, just knows it reminds him of Yujiro. As he follows Deku, as Yujiro's like, sort of getting a smile. As when he starts walking that way as well. As Deku just like, he had to use the bathroom legitimately, like seeing his father again after almost a year and a half, I would say. He's like, as he takes in a deep breath and like after using the bathroom and going to wash his hands, he's like, "Hey," as Baki's like, "You look familiar. Do I know you from someplace?" Deku says, "No, not that I know of." As it's like, "You look familiar." As Baki's pressing him, he's like, "So," he's like, Deku says, "I have one of those faces." As then they go, like Deku goes to walk into the hall. It's a very large hall. As Baki watches him, as then like a light flickers, as then Yujiro just appears in front of Deku, as he like takes a step, like jumps back a little bit, raising up his arms. As Deku doesn't fear his father, he's just surprised to see him after so many years, as he says, little Izuku, well, not grown up." As he flashes his smile, as he's like, "Dad?" As Deku's like, "Dad?" As he looks at Baki, then looks at Yujiro, looks at Baki again, as Baki's looking at him, and then looking at Yujiro, as Yujiro's just looking between the both of them. He's like, "Yes, Baki, meet your older brother Izuku." As Deku looks at him, he's like, "Oh, well, that's weird." As he's like, "Father, I don't understand. I thought you only had one kid. I thought I was your only son." He's like, "You really think that?" As Deku says, "Makes sense. The more children you have, the more chance of tasting feet chances of you tasting feet one day is increased." As Deku says that, Baki looks at him. He's like, "Wait, how do you... Wait, what?" As he says, "It's a pleasure to meet you." As he kneels down on the ground, holding out his hand. "So I guess your name is Baki, correct?" He's like, "Yes, and your name is Izuku," but we all know he just says Deku. He's like, "Yep." As he shakes their hand, "Well, what is the meaning of this, father?" As Deku says it. He says, "Well, see, you seem to regain your composure quickly." He's like, "I do. I never hated you, father. I understood what you were trying to do. Most people would, probably, but... Anyways. So, is there something I can do for you?" He's like, "No. I was just curious." It's like, "What? About what?" He's like, "What you two would do if you ever met up." It's like, "From what I hear, you defeated Hanayama." He's like, "Yes, I did." As Baki's like, "What? This is him?" As he heard about Izuku Midoriya taking down a bunch of street fighters, but he didn't know he was the one to take down Hanayama since he was up in the mountains. He just heard Hanayama was defeated. As after hearing that, he's like, "But you were..." It's like, "Yep." As Baki says, he's like, "What are you gonna do, Baki? Challenge your big brother?" As Deku says, "Not tonight, Dad. I came here with my girlfriend, and the suit costed Mr. Hanayama a lot of money. So I would appreciate if we could do this some other time, Baki. Like, I as he like gives Baki his contact information. If you ever want to reach me, call this. If you want that fight, at least. Or if you want to train, doesn't matter to me. As he goes to walk by his dad, he then stops, and then he turns as he holds out his arm. It was good seeing you again, Dad. As Yujiro looks down at it, sort of getting a confused look, then just smiles and then grasps his hand. It's like sort of using some of his aura manipulation. Well, not manipulation, but his supers, ability. As then he starts sort of pressing down on Deku's hand, as then Deku activates his quirks in tandem and sort of shakes it, like grabs it with all his strength, while Yujiro isn't using all of it. He's like, I'm sorry, but I can't fight you either, father. Not at least for several years, I feel. As Yujiro looks confused, I am not strong enough to give you the fight you wish for. As he bows his head, I would ask you, please forgive me. As he bows his head while grasping Yujiro's hand, he's like, as Baki looks at Deku's face, as he can sense Deku's as Baki saw it when he sort of bent down a bit, he sees that Deku is kind of ashamed in a way, as Yujiro says, slaps him on his shoulder, you still have a long way to go, Midori Izuku. And as he then flashes his perfect smile as Deku looked him in the face, he's like, and I will gladly take any challenge, and I will gladly fight you when that day comes. Because between the two of you, it seems you're the one who will most likely grant it. As then Deku bows again, saying, I will see you two later, correct? Baki says, you most definitely will, as he sort of says that with a bit of anger, as Yujiro's like, it seems your younger brother is eager. Do not keep him waiting, Izuku. I will try. As then he walks away. As Baki's like, so that's my brother, father? As he clenching his fist, he's like, yes. He is the one that will most likely grant me defeat. That is, if you are able to. As I will describe Baki's quirk now, I don't think I've done in the past. His quirk is different. Emi's quirk was a sort of intelligence or adaptability quirk between those two, where she could adapt to her area, but she was extreme. It was she understood it, she could adapt to it, sort of thing. But that was also to some techniques, for instance, if you punch something like this, you could possibly stab through concrete or punch through concrete and stuff like that. That's essentially what Baki's quirk is. It's somewhat of a training quirk. Whatever ability he tries to use, for instance, image training, which is you imagine your opponent before you and you'll your mind does it for you and you actually see them. Sort of like that. Any technique, for instance, the liquid body thing, where it's you imagine your limbs like water and such, and you slap people and it peels off their skin, essentially. Yeah. Stuff like that he can learn. As Deku then walks away and returns to the party, giving a flashing smile to Bakugo as she's like, you alright? He's like, yeah, I was just upset stomach from something I probably had earlier, as she flashes a smile. She's like, oh, okay, as then she is calmed down a little bit. She is worried, but she knows Deku can take care of himself as the night goes on. As I'll continue this another time. I hope y'all have enjoyed it, hope y'all continue to enjoy it, and I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.